Hey everybody, welcome to The Blacklist, the show where we interview the elite. Today on my right, we have Alessandro Tronco. And for most people that don't know you, right, there's their first time listening in. They're watching from Roku or Sony or Amazon or any one of those. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in the financial services industry for almost 30 years.
Yep.
And recently I've taken on a couple of new projects that we're going to talk about today that is really more purposeful in my life and where the future is headed.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the first one, which the book to me, I love the title. How did you come up with the title? And for those who don't know it, what is the title?
It's the Buddha who drove a Bentley.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, it just came to me uh, based on the book. It's most people think that being wealthy or having money doesn't align with the universe and maybe what God wants,
Right.
and so people think that a Buddha has to get rid of all their possessions to be closer to being spiritual and to God. And I just wanted to send a message that that's not the case.
Yeah.
That you can have all the material things in life if and only if you do it the right way, and you don't lose your soul along the way.
And why do most people feel like they have to lose their soul along the way? They feel like, wealthy people step on others in order to get to, where they need to go.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a little bit of the world we live in. It's all the things that you read uh, that makes you think that in order for you to get ahead, you have to step on other people, that you have to be ruthful in order to really get what you want.
Yeah.
And so we put so much value in the material things that it's just difficult for people to understand that there is a better way that aligns much more with people's values.
When did you realize there was a better way?
Not too long ago, probably about a year, probably about a year ago, which caused a huge transformation in my life about where I was headed, the things I was doing, and just knowing that there was a better way. And then once you figure that out, not only is life much smoother,
Yeah.
but you get a huge sense of joy and satisfaction about the things that really matter along the way.
What did you think mattered before that?
Things, stuff
Yeah.
like a Bentley, like a
Yeah.
beautiful car, beautiful house, nice clothes, and all that stuff does matter. Again, if you do it in the right sequence and in the right order.
Yeah.
I just lost everything else along the way. Is going for the things that I thought were important. Um, I sort of lost my soul along the way.
Yeah. And for those that are kind of like, listening in and they feel that, they understand that, but they're not yet there, right? They haven't made that transition yet. What's the first thing that they kind of need to do? Because I think you need to be self-aware. Number one, without it, you're just constantly, head down, grinding, working all the time, getting some new stuff. Like it's natural for people that are, constantly making money to have
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So I think for a lot of us, we know,
Yeah.
like your inner soul knows, but you're afraid to admit it. You're afraid to talk to your friends about it. You're afraid to talk to your business partners about it. But deep inside, we all know where we're headed down the wrong direction, and it's a feeling.
Yeah.
And we wake up in the morning unfulfilled, and we wake up in the morning saying, "Wow, I really bought that beautiful Rolex yesterday, and that felt really good for a couple of minutes." But I woke up this morning feeling the same exact way I did before I had that.
Yeah.
And so I think if you just sat in quiet time, which my book talks about, and just reflected, I think most of us know we're going down the wrong path, and it doesn't feel really good.
Yeah. Actually, I want to bring something up because you said for people to kind of practice quiet time, right? So I learned this from my mentor. Well, he's not my mentor anymore, but he was a long time ago, and he was talking about how most entrepreneurs are constantly just grinding away, and they don't really spend time to just think. And the moment you spend time to just think, that's when things start clearing up for you, And for you, you're telling people that they need to allow themselves time to think, right? Like to kind of like move away, step away. And are they just dedicating like a few hours? Well, a few hours a day is actually a lot. What are you recommending?
Well, it might be a lot, but if you eliminate the things that aren't important, like watching a lot of TV,
Yep.
like watching a lot of sports on the weekends, or whenever they come on, it may seem like a lot. So I don't really know if I have a recommendation. Like, I don't like the thing, oh, you have to spend 30 minutes or an
Right.
hour. Everybody's a little different.
Yeah.
And, a day like today, maybe you have an hour. And
That's true.
tomorrow, maybe you only have 10 minutes. So I do think that the more time you spend in quietness and in stillness, that the better the rest of your day goes and your week goes. And so I don't have a prescription for, hey, you should do this every day.
Right,
But I
right.
do know that if we eliminate a lot of the noise and a lot of the nonsense that we go get caught up in, we have a lot of time.
Yeah. Walk me through the transformation that you experienced when you started realizing this is something that you needed to do, and you can't necessarily just lose your soul in doing all this type of stuff. What ended up happening after you started making that transition, and what can people expect?
Yeah, and so my world changed immediately. Like I wasn't even the same person anymore. If you ask my kids, if you ask my siblings, my wife, they would tell you I'm not even the same individual anymore. I used to be
Yeah.
tired. I used to watch a lot of TV. I used to feel like I needed mental breaks every day when I got home from work, and that's not the case anymore.
That sounds like
And
me, actually.
yeah, it's like a lot of us, and we get caught up in this trap. And so, once you release yourself from that, for me, it was instant. I started really loving life for what it is.
Hmm.
And again, the book title is so critical because it doesn't mean that I don't still like nice things. I
Right.
like to get in a beautiful car. I like to wear nice clothes. But now that I have the other part of it, now that I'm really finding who I am and I have my soul intact, that stuff multiplies and it's so much more joyful to experience those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't even think I'm the same individual that I was a year ago.
Yeah. Well, as entrepreneurs, I feel like it's a constant change. Like we're always growing. And I think this is just kind of like, at least for what you experience, this is that next level of like, I think alertness. I don't know if it's like spirituality or whatnot, but it can be, right?
It's definitely spirituality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because as entrepreneurs, and I've done this my whole life, and I've grown tremendously in the business world.
yeah.
And you get better at better in the business world, and you get better at articulating what your value proposition is, and all that stuff is important. But again, I go back to, if you're not growing from a soul perspective, if you're not growing from a spiritual perspective, you're going to end up someday at age 50, 60, 70, 80 with a lot of regrets.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've grown a lot from a business standpoint. Uh, but could you imagine if you grow both spiritually and from a business perspective, where your life can take you?
Yeah, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs too, and just people at home that are listening in, they also want to show up differently, not just in business with themselves, but also with their family. So, did you also start making changes with anything there? Because I'm not too familiar with like your family life, but
Yeah.
I'm certain that that changed as well. You probably gave more time to your wife, or I don't know. How did that look like?
Yeah, it's night and day. It's a transformation that's night and day. Because really, at the end of the day, especially if you have kids,
Yeah.
not that they don't care about your business world, but they really don't.
Yes.
Especially when they're little. I think you mentioned you have a 1 year old.
Yeah.
They could care less about your business world. What they care about is, how do you show up for them when you get home?
Yeah.
And I hear a lot like, oh, I don't want to work that much because I want to go home and spend time with my family. But then when you're home, you're not really spending time with your family.
Right.
You're not present. You're going home and you're on social media, or you're watching Sports Center for 3 hours, or you're doing all the other stuff that's not really present
Yeah.
with your family. And so, uh, again, when you find that you're connected to who you are, when you finally find that your soul has to be connected, that what happens is you're a different father, husband, mother, whatever the case is, and
Right.
people begin to notice.
Yeah.
And one of the big things really was with me was spending more time outdoors. And I live in the Northeast, so a lot of times it's cold or it's rainy or it's windy, whatever it is.
Yep.
There's always a reason why we shouldn't go outdoors.
Right.
But the reality is, all the magic is outside. If you think of even 500 years ago, like, we didn't spend a lot of time indoors.
Yeah.
And now we have to have, if it's not 69 or 70 degrees at the house, you're like, oh, it's cold or it's warm.
Yeah.
And so spending time outdoors, spending time where nature is so critically important to being alive. And most people spend very little time
And is that like
outdoors.
bike riding, walking, hiking, or is it all the above, whatever you enjoy to
It,
do?
yeah, it's whatever you enjoy to do as long as you're outside.
Yeah.
And yeah, it can be a beautiful bike ride. It can be a beautiful walk with your dog. And frankly, just being outside and sitting on a rock and just looking up at how amazing the sky is,
Yeah.
whether it's fully sunny or whether it's raining out or whether it's cloudy, it's all really spectacularly beautiful. And we've lost that. Most of us take that for granted these days.
And what I'm picking up is you're just a lot more purposeful now, right? Like everything is done with intention now, which is good because we're not just, or at least you right now, you're not moving like a robot, like a zombie, you know. And I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but now with like the water company, you're doing that for a purpose, right?
I
Same
am.
thing with the book. So walk us through that idea and how it came to
Yep.
fruition.
Yep. So let's talk about a word you just used, though, that I use all the time. Like most of us walk around like zombies.
Yeah.
We don't even really know what's happening.
Nope.
Like we just walk and we're looking down at our phones and we're driving, but really we're zombies like on autopilot. And very few people, if you look into their eyes, do you see any life?
Yeah.
Now, they're alive, but there's no life. And there's a huge difference when you see people that are actually alive. And unfortunately, today, a lot of people don't live that way.
Yeah.
And so there's zombies walking the street. Like there's no self awareness there of what's even happening. And they're just going throughout their day looking forward to Friday.
Yep.
Like there's some magical thing about the day Friday,
Yeah.
right? And you hear it all the time. And so, yeah, when you're awake, when you're alive, you stop being just a zombie walking around taking everything for granted.
Right. Right.
And so the water company came very clearly. I stopped drinking alcohol about 6 months ago,
Yep.
and I wasn't an alcoholic. I don't believe I was a social. I was a social drinker,
Yeah.
but you'd go out and it'd be weird if you didn't drink.
Yeah, that's true.
If you have a party and you don't have alcohol, you're the weird person.
Yep.
Like, how can you have a party not having alcohol? And again, I'm not judging anybody that drinks alcohol. I did it for 49 years, right? But I realize it is a poison. And we can kid ourselves that it's not a poison, but we are poisoning our body every time we take a drink.
Yeah.
And the the media makes it look really appealing.
Yep.
Every commercial looks really amazing when you're drinking. And I don't know about you, but every bad decision I've made, or most bad decision I've made, there's been alcohol involved in that decision.
Yeah.
I've never woken up a day after that I've had a lot to drink and say, "Wow, I feel really amazing, and that was really great, and I can't wait to have this feeling again in my body."
That's true.
It's actually the total opposite. And so I went back to what's the purest thing on the planet, and it is water.
Yeah.
Water is the purest thing that we can put into our bodies. And so this water company, Spirit Water, came from the beauty and the nature of outside and what Mother Earth wants to give to us.
Yeah.
And that's pure water. It's not alcohol. It
Yeah.
isn't. It isn't vodka, even though vodka is made out of potatoes. So you're like, oh, it's natural. It's potatoes. And so this water company came about with my family and saying, hey, let's do something good for the world.
Yeah.
Let's create something that's so natural and so beautiful. That's what our body needs. It craves water.
Yeah. Now let me ask you. There's there's a few water companies that are kind of dominating, right? People know the names of, right? Fiji, all that. I mean, that's actually the only one I know, right?
Yeah.
But why? I feel like they have a monopoly on this stuff.
Sure.
Why start? Why start there? With
Yeah, it's
water?
probably one of the hardest industries you can get into. And why start this company that maybe has such a little chance of success? The messaging behind Spirit Waters all has to do with spiritual, to send a message into the universe that's beautiful and powerful with a name like Spirit Water.
Yep.
The actual design of the can is going to be like an artwork. It's going to be a beautiful piece of art that when people drink it, they're going to feel good about themselves because one, they're drinking water. Two, they're looking at something that's really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Three, it's gonna come in an aluminum can.
Yep.
And
Aluminum, kind of like Liquid Death, right?
yes,
Liquid Death comes in.
yes.
Yeah.
There's a couple reasons for that. One, plastic is not good for the environment.
Yep.
Aluminum always gets recycled. But also, once you're done drinking this can, you can do something with it. You can plant a flower in this aluminum can. You can make a candle out of it.
Yeah.
And you just brought up a name, Liquid Death, that's super popular these days.
Yep.
Um, but look at the name, Liquid
Yep.
Death. Like uh, this world needs positivity. This world needs guidance from a higher being.
I agree with you 100% there, dude.
And so the name Liquid Death is certainly a really cool, catchy name. We're going towards a total opposite. We're going towards beauty. We're going towards nature.
Yep.
We're going towards spiritual. Like, be part of a community that wants to make this world a better place.
Yeah.
And we do live in an amazing world, but unfortunately, we are destroying it.
Yeah.
And most people would agree with that.
Yeah.
And so this spirit water, the whole mission and vision behind it is, let's create something that's really so beautiful that people can get behind. And so that's what we're going for. We're going towards a whole different market of people that want to do good, that want to portray a good image. And there's no better way to do that than the most natural thing in the world, which is water.
Yeah. Did you come up with everything with that? Like
No,
with
I'm
the
not
spirit
that smart. So not that smart. No, I have three amazing daughters and a wife, and we were just talking about, like, what do we want to create, and it's going to be a family. It's going to be a family deal.
Yeah.
And so we were thinking of the name, and we thought we I don't know who actually came up with it. It doesn't really matter. It was a family effort.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody will take credit for it, which is okay. And then we came up with the design. Like, we wanted something that was really beautiful, and we agreed. We agreed on that.
Yeah.
And then the universe kind of gives you what you want, especially if you're trying to do something good. I started getting out feelers out there, like, how do I start a water company? Where do I go?
Yeah.
And the universe kind of just brought people into my life that made it happen.
Yeah. Dude, well, that is nice. And, when you were kind of talking about it, I think you're hitting the pain points that for the reasons that people would buy, because people like to buy, water for number one, drink, but also, like you said, like, you're building a community, which I think is like a big differentiator, right?
Yeah.
And there's also, I don't know of any other water company that has that specific target audience. We've been noticing recently, like with what happened with like Bud Light, right, where they kind of like switched target audiences and went down that road. Fiji water is, I feel like, for people that are bougie or want to be bougie or things like that, so they'll drink that. Smart water, not too sure, but like all of these have like their small little communities that they're kind of catering to, right? And from top of my head, I don't know of any other company that's catering to the target audience that you're looking to cater
Yeah.
to.
And I think part of that is fear. I think part of that is fear. What happens when you say the world's spiritual?
Yep.
Like, what does that mean? It's like, oh, you can't say this or you can't say that. And, spirituality means a lot of different things to different people.
Yeah.
And we're not here as a company to say, hey, here's what you should believe in.
Right.
But I think we could all agree to believe in something good,
Yeah.
to believe in a higher being, to believe in something that is good for the world. And this company, one of the things I've always done as an entrepreneur and showed my family how to do is to be very charitably inclined. And that I absolutely believe that the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah.
And you're not doing that. You're not giving to get, but that's just the way the world works.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so we will give from the very beginning 10% of our profits to organizations that fit within what we are trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And that'll be a staple of ours from the very first day to eternity.
Yeah.
That we truly believe, as a company that does good, we can help others.
Yeah, that's powerful. Are you guys looking to get into, or like, you have any connections that hopefully will get you guys into stores?
Yeah.
Retail stores and things like that?
So real retail stores. My daughters are all in that 19 to 22 stage, so they're very good at social media.
Yep.
So
Are they all on TikTok and stuff like
they're
that?
all on TikTok. They're all on
Yeah.
all the social media platforms. So we're going to go that route also,
Yeah.
in the traditional route. And then, listen, during our quiet time, we'll figure out another way to distribute it. I do believe that the universe will bring us avenues that we're not thinking about.
Yeah.
An idea we had the other day was, I was sitting at a baseball game, a college baseball game, and there was no concession stand. I was like, I want some water. It was
Yeah.
hot,
Yeah.
but it just wasn't open. So we're gonna have a spirit water truck, and we're gonna go around to all these games that don't have a concession stand,
Yeah.
and we're going to give away the water. We're not going to sell it. We're going to pull up, and we're just going to give it away.
Yeah.
And then I was driving, and it was the inner city, and I was driving by all these parks. And it was really sad. I didn't see a lot of kids playing outside.
Yeah. I feel like that's not that's
And I was
stopped a
like,
lot.
where are these kids? It was a beautiful Saturday.
Yeah.
But I'm going to find some parks. There's some kids playing around, and we'll pull up with our Spirit water truck, and we'll give out water.
Yeah.
And so we want to make it fun. We want to give back to the community. And so I think the universe will help us with that.
Yeah, I think those are very good ideas, especially the concession stand one. Yeah, people need water for sure, especially on a like because right now in Vegas it's getting hot, and it's gonna be summertime. So I think that's yeah, those are really good ideas.
Yeah, and we know why there's not a concession stand. The school can't make any money at it,
Mm.
and so like we're going to shut it down.
Yeah.
It was a smaller Division III baseball game, so probably 100 people in the audience.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the problem we have in this world today. Like if I can't make money at it, I'm not going to do it.
That's true.
And I was thinking, well, don't these parents deserve to go buy water?
Yeah.
Or do they have to leave? The closest store was 2 miles away, so I have to leave the field, go to the grocery store, buy water, and come back.
Yeah.
Why? Because a school that has $1 billion foundation can't make any money in a concession stand.
Yeah.
And so, what's helping me is that used to turn into anger for me. That used to turn into me calling the president of the university.
Yeah.
But instead, I said, you know what? I'll use it to our advantage. We'll give away the water at these games, and we'll get our name out there by people saying, "Wow, this pretty cool looking truck pulled up," and they didn't sell water at $4 or $5. They gave it away.
Yeah. Do you guys have the truck already built, or is it?
We had the design like we want it to look like. It's not built yet, but that'll be coming soon.
Dude, that's gonna be nice.
Yeah.
So the overarching theme, right, for me that I'm noticing is kind of like I mentioned. You're very purposeful. You're doing a lot of things with intention. But did that come from like this, waking day up and day in and day out, like just feeling like that, feeling like a zombie, where it's like, man, this world, it's going to shit, or I don't know how you felt about it, but
Yeah, I felt lost. I felt like I had everything in life that I needed, but every day just got worse.
yeah,
And this is probably another conversation for another day. But it's getting more and more popular. But I went down to Costa Rica and I did some ayahuasca.
that is getting very popular.
Very popular, and we're not going to get into it now because
Yeah.
we just don't have time. But for me personally, it didn't even change my life. It gave me life, and I immediately knew what I wanted to do. I immediately knew that I needed to come back and change,
Yeah.
and I needed to come back and do something different in the world. And so for me, it was immediate. It's been a beautiful journey. I'm a believer, and again, that's a whole nother conversation. And it's going to continue, and
Yeah.
it's going to continue to get better and better. But I was definitely lost. And so, going back to the book, talks about love, talks about forgiveness, talks about really being in the moment. We were talking before my daughter graduated from college Saturday.
Yeah.
And it was like yesterday I dropped her off
Yeah.
for freshman year. And time goes by really fast. And you could have all the money in the world. But I got to tell you, if you're 75, 80, 90 years old and your kids don't talk to you and your grandkids don't talk to you and you don't have a couple of close friends, you're not going to be very fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so, I'm blessed that I finally recognized that. And I always knew it, but to really feel it in your heart,
It's different.
it's different.
Yeah.
And, nobody cares how much money you have at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Your kids want to know that you love them. Your grandkids want to know that you love them, that you support them unconditionally. And so the book kind of brings you through that journey, and it's got a really interesting beginning, and it's got a twist at the end that this person, it's a fable, but you'll realize very quickly that the book is about my life,
Yeah.
has a decision to make at the end of the book. And
That's good.
I believe he makes the right choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, well, that's good. I think a lot of people need to hear this message. I for one, I hear this, and I definitely, know that I need to make some changes. But the thing is, it gets hard. You start doing your normal day-to-day stuff again, and then you forget. You kind of need that constant reminder.
Yeah, and the other thing that's going on right now, and again, up to my experience, I've been part of this. Like you think it always has to be a struggle. You think you have to like suffer, and if you're not suffering, you're not growing. And I'm not saying there's a part of that that's not true. Certainly is true, but it doesn't have to be all suffering.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all hard all the time.
Yeah.
Um, just because you suffer doesn't mean others have to suffer. And so part of this messaging will be it's not all about suffering. That might be a part of it, but don't make your whole life about suffering. That if you're not struggling, if you're not hurting, you're not growing. That's not the case.
Right.
That most of my growth up to this point came from suffering, and I paid a heavy price for that.
Yeah.
And now that I exponentially am getting better, a lot less suffering,
Yeah.
and it's more beautiful, and it's more fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, powerful message. Alessandro, I appreciate you being here today. Where can people find you?
So you can go to drinkspiritwater.com. You can also go to buddhawhodroveabentley.com. And you can go to my social media, Alessandro Tronco 1974, and you'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, and there'll be some other stuff coming. But for now, those are the places.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Perfect. What do you think? He crushed it, huh? He's articulate. Can you do me a favor? Can you take a picture
Yeah.
on my phone?